I wanted to go through another pros and cons list of office and retail. So for office, big pro, professionals need office. Everybody needs office. I mean, it's the professional thing to do. And so there's a big need for it. It's a staple in downtowns and for professional services. I mean, it's a staple in the communities around us. And stabilized office can fetch a premium. Some of the most expensive buildings and the biggest, most impressive buildings in the world are office. So, but then, cons, we have a lot of office vacancy and we have work from home post COVID, which just completely turned office upside down in some cities and counties and towns and whatever. So we have a lot of cities with a lot of impending office vacancy. But then going back to pros, we also I'm hearing about a lot of discussion about multifamily conversions and turning these office buildings into high quality multifamily, which also serves a good need. So, and the most scary thing, the singular most scary thing about office as a product type is holding the bag on that building if it's 30% vacant or more. That's the single scariest thing.
That is the risk reward, right? Like
Yes.
I believe in office in San Francisco. It's already picking up. So can you hold on to the expenses? Can you buy all cash and hold on for a couple of years right now? Uh, and the reward is like
I
ginormous.
I agree. I agree. And what recently we had a record low price in Fort Worth for a high rise downtown. And boy, that developer, when they finish their plan,
Woo!
it's gonna be so amazing. I mean, good night. This is like a 40-story building. It's gonna be some of the most impressive multifamily the city's ever seen. And what was really cool is whenever they bought the property, there was not really much exciting news. Lo and behold, a year later, we're having a huge college expansion just down the street. And so, I mean, this is going to be thousands and thousands of students, multiple stories. It's like a four building project. And so there is a huge pro to all that con. And that's kind of the crux of the balance that we walk, the tightrope that we're on all the time.
Exactly.
That it's going to be an incredible return. And I really wish I could be privy to their underwriting so I could see how that thing's going to skyrocket. But that's the thing. And you made a good point. The cons that we're talking about here are literally the opportunities. So the things that scare us are often the opportunity. And so while the scariest thing an office could be holding the bag, paying the property taxes on a building that's assessed for what it's actually worth, that's a little scary, but when you lease that up, when you hold and you plan correctly, and you've got a good team and you lease that up and you've got it for 10 cents on the dollar, because it's been vacant, it's a whole different story. And those are my favorite conversations to have too, by the way.
But that's everything, right? So if you think about
Yeah.
it, if you want to be extremely safe, you're gonna put your money in a savings account. If you want to be a little tiny more risky than that, you put in a retail, a triple net tenant that will give you the mailbox money, but it's at 5%. If you want a little bit more return,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to, it's just, yeah, it goes for everything.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
And so then going on to retail, honestly, I love retail. I don't know about you, but I love shopping. I really do. And it's everywhere. Everyone loves to buy things. This is America.
Yeah.
Pricing on retail centers, especially with some vacancy or an owner who's out over their head, but with a good property, can be amazing. And they're really easy to add value on if you're leasing and you're underwriting correctly. And they're really straightforward. You throw a retail tenant in there who's got some good credit, they do a good job selling their products, and they pay their rent. Now the con is Amazon has scared everybody in the retail space. And while I love shopping, I'm doing more Amazon shopping than ever, and it's true, you know? And so I think I personally hit a lot of local retail, but I work in commercial real estate. I want to work with my local people. I care about that, but I don't think retail will ever die. We just love to spend money. The marketplace, the the hawking has always been around. This is a human staple. Humans need to sell things. So,
That one is a tough one for me because I don't have kids, and I do think anyone wanting to invest in retail should be talking to teenagers because these people they are not hanging out a lot in person, right? They can barely they prefer to text. My uncle has a university in Brazil, and a student had a problem. And he's like, "Oh, okay, come to the office. Let's have a conversation." And the student literally told him, I prefer via text.
wow.
So that one I encourage people to talk to the younger kids because are they going to be, I'm shopping for shoes online nowadays.
Yeah.
Are they going to be, because the alternative to retail is more of experience, right? So are these
Yeah.
going to be out there experiencing? That's the question that they can answer better than us, I think.
And it's a fair question. And this again, you're showing me your appetite here, and it's not retail. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Each one of us has a different, appetite, and this is what we're talking about. Because I would throw down on some retail. Um, and okay, another point, a lot of retail businesses fail. This is facts, so you can have a great retail center and everything seems great, but maybe, the shoes are being bought online now,
Yeah.
so industrial, I could talk too long about. I really could, but I think that the biggest pros for me, there has been such a focus on domestic industrial lately. Whenever we're talking about bringing manufacturing or warehousing or new Amazon distribution or data center, you know, AI, open AI, Stargate. I don't know if anyone's heard about the Stargate program. That's another cool thing I could talk about for a while. But we have a lot of local infrastructure being built around US based and industry. And so it's gonna happen, There's lots of dollars being put into it, and there is this sentiment of each country should be able to manufacture their own products. And I think we're sensing that now. And so hopefully we continue to see this trend. Americans love buying things. The same reason that I think the retail works is why the industrial works, because so much industrial is built around product and shipping product and getting it from A to B, warehousing for Amazon, etc. So even if people stop going to the retail store, our friend Amazon is always going to need warehouses. And there's going to be lots of companies providing other forms of distribution and accessory service to Amazon. So as long as Americans love buying stuff online or in person, industrial will probably be good. We're going to need it. And then there's opportunity. There's a lot of small towns, and especially here in Texas, that have 100, 300,000 people where you can buy quality industrial for 30 bucks a foot if you can tolerate a hold and leasing it up in a year or 2 years. And, those deals can be had all day. And there's lots of more stabilized national credit tenant deals to be had. So there's just all sorts of things that can be found with a propensity for appreciation. The industrial cons are a shorter list than I have for other product types.
Mhm.
And you could have an environmental contamination that you don't know about that messes up your whole plan. Um, and market conditions can severely affect tenants in the industrial world. So tariffs, for instance, could be very scary for an industrial tenant. I'm working with some now who are scared by them. But, well, another good example is oil. You have the price of oil changes in Houston too much and might get a little scary.
Mhm.
So these are cons that are found everywhere. But that's my kind of take on each asset type. And I didn't cover multifamily because, again, that's just not a focus of mine particularly. But I think
Good
in
to stop.
general, like I said, there's merit to each. You
Yeah.
can make a 20 or 30 or 40% IRR in each of those deals.
Hmm.
The path to how you get there that matters, and it's the sponsor, their ability and experience, and your goals, and whether or not you want to proudly own that retail center that you will not go to buy shoes at.
Yeah. I'd rather have industrial first.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's go move on to what should your commercial real estate agent or broker do for you as a buyer?
Yes. And so we talked about this briefly, but I've got strong feelings on it. I do think that there's a responsibility level and a professional level and a performance level that each person who practices commercial real estate should do. And so the number one thing is they need to understand the real estate market that you're working in, and which is kind of hard. If you're you, you can look at deals all throughout the nation and those could be viable.
Yeah.
And so it gets a little tricky because as your sophistication level and adventurous spirit goes up, being willing to go into other states, you're going to have other requirements of your representative. So your agent should be bringing value to each deal with expert knowledge, expert opinions, and advice on real estate. Then they should definitely be doing the same thing on the math and help be opining on the math. And creative ideas are so important in commercial real estate, but they are so easy to get away from you. You talk to some people in the commercial real estate world, and they're the most creative people ever, but they're going to fly away with the creativity of their ideas. They're not reality. And so there's this balance between creative and practical that's really hard to strike. But they should understand the math better than you do, hopefully. They should be a resource for underwriting to help you plan, market intelligence. They should not have any scent of sizzle or commission breath on them. There should be none,
Most of them
hopefully.
have, though. Most
And
of them.
there's a difference, I think, between excitement and sizzle, that's too much, and it's
Yeah,
hard to quantify, but you don't wanna feel like they're selling you something every time you talk to them. You've got to have a
I
genuine
agree.
relationship, you know?
We're dealing with one right now that he was like, oh, the comps, he's looking
Yeah,
at brand new comps and the building is
everything's
not ready.
fine.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Um, they should advise you. They should give you advice, but they should also keep their fiduciary duty to you and protect you in your decision making. And so I have come to see myself as an accessory, similar, but most certainly not practicing law. It's similar to the relationship you have with your counsel or an advisor or a consultant or your CPA. It's someone that you come to rely on, someone that you trust,
Yeah,
someone that has a high ethical standard. And so I'm not practicing law, but I'm practicing my real estate with the same moral integrity and
exactly.
ethical integrity and loyalty and fiduciary respect that
Yeah,
as that a lawyer would.
yeah,
If your agent isn't doing that, that's a problem, I think. Just
agree.
because of the nature of the relationship, your CPA, your lawyer, and your real estate agent have a fiduciary duty to you.
Yeah,
And so the most common person to be dropping the ball in that equation is the real estate agent.
yeah,
Your counsel and your CPA are probably doing you right. And so, that's just important. You should trust someone's judgment. You should feel confident that they have your back and that they are working for your best interests, not to earn a commission.
hmm
And then that kind of leads me into my next topic, and I've only got a few more here, but what should you do? So, what does your agent do is a big question, but then what do you do? And so I think that each person who's investing, I mean, each of us is going to do it differently for sure. We have a different journey. But at the base level, understanding real estate and continuing to try to understand it as an owner, but then also through your agent's eyes, the one you trust, the one who trusts you too and is loyal to you and looks out for you. You see it through their eyes. And then, or syndicator. Maybe it's your syndicator. You're seeing it through their eyes. And then if you're doing deals on your own, you're working with a lender and you're starting to look at deals through their eyes. And their underwriting teams are going to have words for you, I'm sure, especially on your first deal of what you forgot to underwrite for, like market vacancy and cash reserves, things like that are pretty easy to miss. But as you get more and more sophisticated, you should be learning more, applying it, and generally just trying to understand it more. And
Yeah.
that's all I've done in this commercial game. I got in and just had a learner's, mindset, and it's served me really well. And I will absolutely tell you that the most wealthy people that I know have a learner's mindset, and they're some of
Mhm.
the most, humble and willing to learn people that I've ever worked with in business.
They're
And
curious.
it's just
They
a
and they have two ears and one mouth, so they listen
yeah,
more than
yeah.
they talk.
And so kind of in line with that is I know the math sucks. The math part is not fun for probably some of us or most of us, but understanding it over time is better than a sprint when you really need to understand it. Because we're all working on our building our wealth, managing our finances, and if you end up in a situation where you're already committed to a deal and you find that you need now to understand the real estate math, you're going to have a hard time. It's doable. You can call someone like me or a you for advice, but it's just an over time thing. Just apply. And then sticking to your investment plan and using discipline based on those two first foundations. That is such a simple thing that some of us can vary from. Only look at stuff you want to buy. Only underwrite things that make sense to underwrite. Only commit to projects that you underwrite and understand, and make good workflow with your team. But really, that simple principle of just being disciplined to this is the plan, this is how we're executing it, and this is how I'm going to make money. That's what we do every day. The best money managers and wealth builders that I know work for that every day.
Hmm.
And then only commit to deals that you understand and that you can commit to, and only gamble with money that you can afford to lose.
Absolutely.
I think if a real estate investor just did those things along with getting to know your syndication team, I think that's really all it takes. Um, and so then, okay, I'll go to one of these other points. Starting out, similar, but just some points here. The first investment that you make in real estate is not always your last, but it totally could be. It could be the last investment you ever make. And so the entry that you make into investing is really important. Having a trusted team, having trusted money managers, having trusted sponsor, really important, especially if this is your first time placing private equity or buying a deal. Um,
Yeah.
and
Private
seeking,
equity, you have to have done your own deals first with your own money
yep,
before taking investors' money.
absolutely. Um, Having a plan, knowing your loss floor, not gambling, those are all really basic. And then one more before I finish up here, I wanted to talk about fear in real estate. And there is always fear in real estate. There should be. The reason we have this feeling of fear is because it's appropriate. It's a scary thing. It's
Yeah.
the most important decision many of us make and the biggest, dollar amount that we sometimes spend. And then we talked about the absolute chaos that actually is the market cycle that's constantly orbiting around us like this three-body problem. There is legitimately a, a, a market that can never be calculated, and we're playing in it. And that's appropriate for us to feel fear
Well
always.
said.
So, but then there's like, how am I going to proceed? I can't just feel fear. How am I going forward? Am I done? Am I just totally done investing because I feel fear? No. So we have the market stuff, we have the policy stuff, we have the administration stuff, the geopolitical health, all the other stuff that's going on. But what isn't changing is the math. Math is staying the same. Math is cold. IRR is IRR today and tomorrow, and whether the market's good or bad. So if you're making real estate investments based on any sort of feeling, you're doing it wrong. And that includes fear, and that includes happy, delight, you know?
Yeah.
Um, you always want to be cautious with feelings. And so we're talking about feelings because we're talking about fear, which is a feeling. And so if we're basing our investment decisions on emotion or feelings, we're definitely doing it wrong and need to instead base our decisions on the things we've talked about. Math, our goals, our risk tolerances. And, we talk about feelings like anxiety or fear. The reason we feel those things is our brain is telling us something's wrong. Let's fix it. Let's figure out what's given us the heartburn and really understand why our brain is making us feel fear. Is it legitimate? Did my appraisal just fall through? Did it come through $1 million less than I needed and now I cannot do this deal? That's a legitimate fear. And your team of advisors will help you see that. And you're probably going to have to kill that deal and or negotiate a price, or pivot. And your team can help you in that moment when you feel fear. Or maybe the fear is not legitimate. Maybe we run the math 10 times and all of our friends look at the deal and we still feel fear a little bit, but maybe it's just because we're new in this case, you know? So walk away when the fear is legitimate. That's I believe that that's true across all investing. And so it's also true sometimes you can only make money when other people feel fear.
Mhm.
But when you feel fear, just take a pause, work through it. And if it's legitimate, just walk away and try not to make any, decisions based on any sort of emotions because greed is also an emotion, um, delight in a deal or being extremely happy and satisfied, also emotions. So there's just this huge gamut of emotions that we could find ourselves feeling. And so I focus on math when it comes to real estate. And then when the math works and everything looks good there, then I'm happy.
Mhm.
And I try to focus on that feeling when I can feel it. Um, and then wrapping up, and I don't mean like the podcast, but it is the last thing I wanted to talk about. Um, when you exit a deal, it's something we don't talk about all the time, but that's really where you're capturing all the value that you've put in for so long. And it could be years and years of dozens of people working on a deal and positioning and negotiating. And it's really important to exit properly. And I think that's true of everything. But, if it's a deal that you're an LP in or in a junior position, that's probably going to be a pretty simple exit. Work with your sponsor team. Usually your sponsor is going to call the shots on an exit and, go with your team, let your sponsor exit you. And, sometimes they'll ask you for input. If they do, give it. You should understand the deal enough to give your input if they ask. Otherwise, just go with them if they control the deal. Um, if you're working on a private deal, you really gotta know when your plan is to exit and you have to strategize it.
And on
And
that note, do you prefer to buy and hold or flip deals?
it totally, totally depends. And so I am in a different place than some investors. I am very opportunistic myself. I'm an opportunistic guy. And I also my personal philosophy is to work kind of with what's there. And so in some cases, there's some really good opportunity, but I kind of go with it. You know, if I've got a 10-year lease in place and my IRR is going to be strong if I hold for 10 years and it's just appreciating and appreciating, maybe I'll hold it. But if I'm having issues or if I'm scared, if I'm feeling fear and then I've thought through it and it's legitimate, I might exit that property, you
Hmm.
know?
So in general, you're more of a buy and hold then?
It
If
truly depends. I let the math tell me, to be honest with you, because there are some deals where you're calculating IRR and refinancing, etc. And based on deal mechanics, you pretty much know your timing and you're constrained to it if you want your IRR. So you work for it. But then there's other deals that are more simple that maybe I enjoy the mailbox money. Maybe it's a really high lease rate on this deal, and maybe I like getting that cash every month, you know? So truly it's I get to make those kinds of calls for myself and for the deals I work on. But if you're an LP, you don't really get to make those decisions. You just kind of have to trust your sponsor and let them make those decisions for you. And that I encourage that. But if you're on the private side, yeah, you've got a lot to think about. And I could go either way on an asset.
okay.
And I think that's a good place for me to end with what I prepared. You know, I can talk about a lot of this for a long time. It's what I do. I enjoy it the most, you know. So, but I wanted to, I mean, take any questions that you had and give you a chance to talk to me.
No, I've been asking them, I've been commenting or asking them along the way. The only thing I wanted to add, on the fear side is just my personal observation on how people go with the flow so much, right? If the economy is great, they're all throwing money at multifamily deals at like 3.5 cap rates, or in the last 2 weeks that the stocks were down, right? People are so scared, and I'm like, that's temporary. That's temporary. It's time to buy stocks if you
Yeah.
companies.
I
Uh,
bought a bunch of stocks. They were on discount.
Great, good for you, Trent. And then the top people see through that, though. They know that these are cycles. And I just cannot comprehend how intelligent investors can sometimes just go with the flow. You know, it just blows my mind how people forget that these are all cycles, right? And if it's
Yeah.
down, it's a great time to buy. Just like in 2008, this person said, I am buying America. Guess
Yeah.
who he was? Warren Buffett.
Yep.
He
Oh
said that in
yeah.
2008, right?
Yep.
It's just a comment that
I
it's funny how.
I tend to think of things as like groups. And so I think there's groups like the ones that you and I are in, you know, the people we know and the friends that we have and the deals we're in, and those people are not really feeling fear. In fact, everyone I know right now is pretty amped on the current
That's awesome.
market.
That's awesome.
And you know, then I think there's a lot of folks that are kind of off by themselves, reading a lot of internet stuff by themselves, you know,
Yeah,
researching by themselves. They all see the same articles and that kind of leads them all to the same place. But I kind of feel for those people. Like if I could just have 10 or 20 or 15 minutes with those people, I feel like it'd be really productive, you know, because there's so much bad advice out there and another point, regardless of how you feel about the media. I love the media and I hate the media and then everywhere in between, right? But the fact is that we are going to feel some way based on what we're seeing in the media. And notice I didn't say the media is making us feel this way, because I don't think the media makes us feel any type of way. I think we feel some type of way because of what we see.
Mm,
And that's in our control. And so, you know, education in real estate is paramount. I think I've made that clear. I definitely think we each have a responsibility to educate ourselves.
mhm.
And if everyone that I talked to educated themselves kind of the way I've talked about, there'd be a lot less fear in real estate and a lot more math. And we'd all be sitting around talking about our spreadsheet data and the IRR data that we're looking at. And that is the world that I would like to live in. And that's the world I do live in my day to day. That's why me and you talk about that kind of stuff regularly.
Yeah. Wow, this has been wonderful, Trent. Thank you so much. I know we covered all the topics, we planned on talking about, but is there anything else that you think is important for our audience to know that we haven't covered yet?
Always. I mean, there's always something. I'm really happy to sit down and talk with you guys. Some of you I might know. I might have worked with you in the past, on some of the deals that WIP has done. So if we have, drop me a line or reach out. They'll pass a message along. And yeah, great talking with you. Thank you for having me, and I hope to come back soon.
On that note, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Honestly, the best way is to email me, Trinity at blacktie-re.com. Drop me a line. And if you want to reach out by phone or something, just drop me an email and I'll make sure to give you a call. And of course, you can reach out to WIP. They're always in contact with me.
And as always, his email will be under show notes. Thank you so much for making the time and creating this wonderful plan for our conversation.
Well, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.